Hello, and welcome to my review of the 2004 Pixar film Finding Nemo. Now, Finding Nemo, for those of you that have been living in a cave, under a rock, or in a coma, follows two clownfish living in the ocean, a father and his son. The father is called Marlin, the son is called Nemo. And Marlin is an overprotective father over his son. Marlin's partner, I guess, we'll just call him his wife. Marlin's wife and all their little fish eggs are all killed by what I think is a barracuda, but it could be some kind of, I don't know, weird tropical shark or something like that. So he's become overprotective, and because of this attack, the egg which Nemo was has become damaged. So Nemo has a little fin. So we got regular fin, little fin, like that. That's my impersonation of fish anatomy there. So, with Nemo becoming tired of his father being so overprotective, Nemo decides that while at his first day of school, he's going to swim out into open water and touch a boat. But as he touches the boat and returns back, he is caught by divers. And so the film is about Marlin and his companion, who he meets along his journey trying to find Nemo. His companion Dory involves the two of them trying to get Nemo back after he is taken from the ocean and is now living in a dentist in Sydney. So, in summary, Finding Nemo is possibly the best CG film ever to be made. And that's saying a lot, especially when you consider films like pretty much everything else by Pixar, bar maybe Cars 2, because apparently that's crap. And it would be when you think about it, because Cars isn't as good as Pixar can be, but, whatever. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Finding Nemo is possibly the best Pixar film and the best CG film to be made to date. I mean, like, the only other films that can stand up to Finding Nemo in comparison are maybe Toy Story 2, like The Incredibles, Monsters Inc., maybe even Shrek, thinking about it, because Shrek is a pretty good film, and Shrek 2. And if I'm honest, Shrek 3 as well. I haven't seen the fourth one. But anyway, enough talking about Shrek and all the other Pixar films. We're talking about Finding Nemo. Now, let's go through the positives. Finding Nemo gets everything right. It's such a perfect balance of sort of style, story, character, voice acting. Let's just go through everything. Let's start with the voice acting. The voice acting is impeccable. It's perfectly done. Albert Brooks is perfectly cast as the voice of Marlin. Ellen DeGeneres is the voice of Dory. And you've got such a talented voice cast doing Finding Nemo. A lot of very seasoned actors in it, people who know what they're doing, like Albert Brooks. Willem Dafoe does the voice of one of the fishes in the fish tank. You've got, who else isn't there? Eric Bana is one of the sharks they encounter. I'm only going through the people who I can name, but there's not a single person who does voice work badly in this film. Let's move on to other things. Characters. Finding Nemo gets characters right perfectly. You've got your sort of mismatched companion duo of the overprotective and overprotectives are just a good enough word on its own to describe Marlin. The overprotective Marlin, the forgetful, fun-loving Dory. The two of them just have a chemistry with each other that just really excels the film into something more than some sort of dumb rescue film. And all the other characters, like the fish in the tank in Sydney, the sharks, the sort of the shoal. Is it a school of fish or a shoal of fish? I can't remember. I think it's school. A shoal is something I think you wear when you're old. I think it's school though. But anyway, the group of fish that they meet, that's voiced by that one guy who does all the voices in Pixar. Like he's Ham from Toy Story. That's who he is. They're really cool characters. All the characters are able to work well with all the other characters in it. There's no point that where anything seems awkward or done really sort of amateurishly. Everything is done perfect. The story, like I said, Finding Nemo could have been a really simple, really sort of bland film, but because it's got such good characters and such good voice work, this story is one that you really care about. You're really rooting for Marlin and Dory to find Nemo. You really want them to succeed in it. This is one of those films that it really really reaches you at an emotional level, even though there's nothing that you see is real, which is quite an achievement, really. The story's all good. So that's kind of the story-based elements. Let's talk about the style. Finding Nemo is colourful. It's imaginative. It's got some of. It's a really good CG film. Like, as far as the actual CGI itself goes, it's really, really good. I mean, there are films that are released now. I mean, Finding Nemo came out 2003, I think. So for films being made 10 years later to not look as good as Finding Nemo is such an achievement. Pixar really did nail the underwater part of it all, because a lot of the film, as you can imagine, is done underwater, and they do that so good, and the film, it just looks great. And it's one of those films that, like, even though some people think Blu-ray is a rip-off, I own it on Blu-ray, and I would thoroughly recommend people getting the Blu-ray, because it's with the Blu-ray just updating it so that it's in HD, everything just looks better. Like, the colours come out clearer. It's a sharper, more sort of crisp image, so that you're able to really appreciate the film even more. And this is a personal favourite film of mine. I watched it yesterday, I think, or the day before yesterday, and I was just sitting there just watching it and just thinking to myself, why have I waited so long to watch this again? I mean, when was before, like 2 days ago, the last time I watched it might have been a year, 2 years even. And it's one of those things that you really only want to watch on special occasions, just because you don't want the effect of it to wear off. It's like it's like The Dark Knight or Jaws. I don't watch them that often because I don't want the sensation of watching it to diminish. I want it to be as good as I remember it being. And the funny thing is that Finding Nemo is even better than I remember it being. So, Finding Nemo, as far as I'm concerned, has no negatives. Like, none. It's timed well, it's not too long, it's not too short, it's long enough so that you're able to have a well-constructed film, and it's short enough so the kids aren't going to fall asleep through it. And if your kid does fall asleep through watching Finding Nemo, slap them, tell them to pay attention, because this is one of those things where I imagine if they did a test of it, they would find that sort of most people who have murdered at our age, at my age, haven't watched Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo would probably make your child a better person. I'm just saying it would. I mean, I like Finding Nemo, and I haven't murdered anyone, so this review has gone drastically off course, but never mind. Just if you're a parent and for some reason you're watching this and you don't own Finding Nemo, your kids haven't seen Finding Nemo, for the love of all that is holy, get Finding Nemo and watch it. It is the ultimate family film. It really is. Because my definition of a family film is something the entire family can watch and everyone can enjoy. So things like Rise of the Guardians or something, or like Shrek 3, where they're marketed as family films, but I would argue they're not really family films, because they're either too short or they don't have a level of intelligence to keep all members of the family entertained. Like, it's not that they're bad, it's just that they're not what they should be. But anyway, altogether, I am going to give Finding Nemo, if you haven't figured it out, I'm going to give Finding Nemo 5 out of 5 stars. Now, Finding Nemo has a sequel in the works called Finding Dory. Now, this is interesting because Dory is one of those characters that I think works in Finding Nemo because of the contrast between her and Marlin. I think because the two of them are different, that's how they're able to work so well together. And I think for Pixar to try and replicate that sort of chemistry between them should be good, but the problem is that because it's Finding Dory, it would imply that there is more emphasis on her and her as a character, which would mean that Marlin and Nemo don't play as much of a role. Now, from what I remember reading about it, the plot of Finding Dory is because Dory has memory loss issues. She doesn't know who her parents are, and it's about her trying to find her parents. Let's remember not to confuse that with parents. I don't know why I said it like that. But anyway, I think for Finding Dory to work, either both Marlin and Dory have to play central parts in it, or Dory has to come meet her parents and be the contrast between her, because I think if Dory's parents are like Dory, I think the film might become a bit annoying. Because Dory is one of those people that's like, you either love her or hate her. I personally think Dory's a cool character just because, and like I've said, she works well with Marlin because of the differences between them. So I'm looking forward to Finding Dory. So anyway, thank you for watching my review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative, and goodbye.